Do you recognize this? Yeah, if you've struggled with acne the way that I have, you're probably very familiar with the benzoyl peroxide stains. Well, this is due to benzoyl peroxide, and this right here is your guide to benzoyl peroxide, to understanding how it works, what you need to know, what you should and shouldn't mix it with, and how to make it work for you in your skincare routine, especially if you have acne. Benzoyl peroxide is really special because it's been studied so much. There are literally thousands of medical studies that look at its efficacy, and it's one of the best things that people can use for acne if their skin can tolerate it and if you use it correctly inside of your routine. Now, as an acne sufferer myself, I remember when I first started using benzoyl peroxide, I was, a teenager. I was in aesthetic school back in 2009, and I literally had access to Proactive because that's like all that existed back then. We didn't have brands like Dermatica or like Dr. Cassandra MD, and I remember using the benzoyl peroxide from Proactive, shoving it on my face, leaving it on until it burned, having my face literally swell up and just being like, the pain means it's working, right? And I would literally stain my favorite pajamas, my favorite purple towels, and the things that I loved to wear and to use. And it was so devastating because I never made the connection that benzoyl peroxide is what was doing it. Now, benzoyl peroxide is fantastic for acne, but it can be a little bit tricky to work with if you don't know how. And that's why, as a medical esthetician who has both struggled with acne myself and who literally helps others with their skin, with their routines, and yes, specifically acne-prone skin, these are the things that I wish I would have known. And first off, starting off is how benzoyl peroxide actually works. You can find it in different cleansers or in leave-on treatments, but it works the same. It's not an exfoliant like a lot of people think, and it's not an antibiotic like the ones that you might get prescribed from a doctor or dermatologist. But what it does is actually introduce oxygen into the skin, which kills acne bacteria. You see, we all have this acne bacteria that lives naturally inside of our skin. It used to be called Propionibacterium acnes, and now it's called Cutibacterium acnes, just in case you wanted to know its little name. And this acne bacteria lives naturally in the skin, but it lives in an anaerobic environment. An meaning not or without, and aerobic, think of like aerobic exercise, that means oxygen. So the acne bacteria can't exist in the presence of oxygen. Well, benzoyl peroxide literally releases oxygen when it gets heated up. And think about your skin. It actually is pretty warm, right? When benzoyl peroxide gets put on your skin, it goes into those pores, the bond in benzoyl peroxide breaks, and it releases that oxygen, basically killing the acne bacteria, kind of like fumigating it in a way. And this really helps to clear up the skin, and it can do it quite quickly. Now, unfortunately, benzoyl peroxide can be a little bit irritating, or it can be a little bit drying for some people. And that's why it's always important to make sure that you're using the right formula and make sure that you're using the right amount. Benzoyl peroxide can be used in anything from like 0.5% all the way up to 10% or even 60% if you get it prescribed by a doctor or a derm. For those who are a little bit more sensitive, I do recommend using benzoyl peroxide in a wash-off formula. And what's great about using benzoyl peroxide in a wash is that you can get your chest and your back, especially for athletes or for people who don't want to fuss with a routine, especially for stereotypical teenagers, can be a really good way to go. And because you're getting that contact on the skin, but you're not leaving it on throughout the day, you're not going to be staining your favorite outfit or your favorite shirt when you go to put it on and pull it over your head in the morning. I also really like benzoyl peroxide in wash-off treatments because you can use it with other ingredients. There are certain ingredients that you should and shouldn't use benzoyl peroxide with, which we're going to speak about, but there are also leave-on treatments, which are fantastic depending on how you use them. Leave-on treatments can literally be like a serum or a moisturizer that you put on all over, or you can spot treat specific areas. Usually benzoyl peroxide is best tolerated for skin that is a little bit more resilient or a little bit more oily. If you are dry or if you're prone to irritation, you probably don't want to use a leave-on form. And there are actually some people who are allergic to benzoyl peroxide. So if you are allergic to benzoyl peroxide, if your face gets unreasonably red or like swollen, back off, see a doctor, talk to your derm. Don't be using this stuff because a lot of people don't realize that they're actually allergic to it or their skin is being sensitized. If you're looking for benzoyl peroxide in a wash formula, some of my favorites are really inexpensive. Canoxyl is drugstore, it's inexpensive, and you can get it at a 5% or a 10% if you really want to go ham with this. And then the Inky List actually has a super solutions. This is really inexpensive and this is fantastic. Again, for teenagers, for acne, for people with oily skin who just don't want to fuss with a routine, this is great to just rinse in the shower once a day, and you can also get the chest and the back. Now, if you can handle a little bit more, or if you are more oily, leave-on treatments are fantastic. This one is from Dr. Cassandra MD. This is the benzoyl peroxide acne lotion at 2.5%. And then this is one of my favorites, which is Dermatica. Now, Dermatica is custom blended to each person, so what you get is going to be different for you. Dermatica does offer benzoyl peroxide, but they also offer things like adapalene and tretinoin and clindamycin, which we're going to talk about when it comes to mixing. So this is fantastic fantastic as well, and the price here is unbeatable if you're looking for prescription stuff without the fuss. Now, when it comes to mixing some of these things, what do you need to know? The first are the no-nos. There are some big no-nos that you should generally not mix with benzoyl peroxide, and the biggest one is actually vitamin C. Now, is this detrimental? Is it going to destroy your skin? No, but if you do mix benzoyl peroxide and vitamin C, they really just kind of cancel each other out. You see, vitamin C is an antioxidant, but benzoyl peroxide literally is these two benzene rings with a peroxide link that breaks and introduces oxygen, aka free radicals and damage, into the skin to kill the acne bacteria. While that's great to get rid of the acne bacteria, if you combine that with vitamin C, they kind of just cancel each other out. So if you want to use these, make sure that you're doing them at separate times a day. For example, vitamin C in the morning and your benzoyl peroxide wash at night. If you do want to use your vitamin C in the morning, but you're wondering what cleanser to use, remember that you don't actually need a cleanser in the morning if you don't want one, but you can always go for a good gel or cream formula. There are tons out there that I love. The avocado glow recipe one is great. I've personally been loving the Get Clean from Wishful Skin. This is a gel formula from Dramatica. There are a bunch out there that can really help to cleanse your skin in the morning without any ingredients like benzoyl peroxide that would counteract your vitamin C or your other actives or antioxidants. Now, what else should you not mix benzoyl peroxide with? Well, you should consider not mixing it with retinoids over the counter unless it is prescribed by a doctor or a derm, and here's why. You see, benzoyl peroxide is fantastic. And again, it doesn't exfoliate the skin, it's not an antibiotic, and it doesn't thin out the skin either, but it can make you slightly photosensitive. And as with potent ingredients like benzoyl peroxide, if you mix benzoyl peroxide with other acne ingredients like retinoids, either over-the-counter retinol or the prescription stuff like tretinoin, it can cause irritation and more drying. So unless it's prescribed by a doctor or derm, take it slow, and maybe don't mix these together or use them at the same time inside of your routine. Now, of course, there are exceptions to this. For example, there is a medication called Epiduo. Epiduo is literally adapalene, which is a form of retinoid, plus benzoyl peroxide, and it works really great for acne. It's a prescription. And again, Dramatica does have custom blended formulas. For each person, it's going to be different, but a doctor or a provider might say, hey, we're going to custom blend a retinoid in with benzoyl peroxide to help you get the most out of your skincare. If prescribed by a doctor or derm, go for it. If you're doing this stuff on your own and you're noticing that your skin is getting peely or irritated, back off, go slow, meaning one product at a time, and start low, meaning lower concentrations of those active ingredients. Now, there are some things that you should absolutely mix with benzoyl peroxide, and you do want to talk to your doctor or derm about this, but antibiotics. If you're using any antibiotics topically on your skin, your doctor or derm has probably recommended using a benzoyl peroxide wash. Now, why is that? You see, antibiotics literally kill acne bacteria, but when they do that, they can kill all of the bacteria. And sometimes if you don't stick with those antibiotics, the bacteria can come back with a vengeance. We've all heard of bacteria-resistant medications, right? Well, we don't want that, which is why if you are prescribed antibiotics orally, always take the full dose, follow the doctor's instructions, and if you're using it topically, make sure that you're using it completely, but using something like benzoyl peroxide that kills any bacteria that tries to come back and resist those antibiotics. There are plenty of antibiotics out there, from tetracycline to doxycycline to monodox, that your doctor might prescribe, but clindamycin is another fantastic one. Clindamycin or clindamycin phosphate is something that's used topically on the skin, and it's nice because it's not as drying, but it is an antibiotic that helps to kill and dry out that bacteria. And clindamycin and benzoyl peroxide are basically best friends. Now, you do have to get clindamycin prescribed by a doctor or a derm, but if you're really struggling with your acne, speak to your provider about it, or go to a pharmacy like Dramatica and ask one of their doctors or experts there if it would work for your skin. Because for a lot of people who do have acne, sometimes over-the-counter stuff just doesn't cut it. It can actually help your skin work against the acne without overly irritating or bothering you. Now, clindamycin can make you a little bit photosensitive. Any antibiotic can, so you always need sunscreen. But benzoyl peroxide, again, it's unique because it doesn't actually thin the skin. It doesn't make you as photosensitive as other acne medications. You still need to use a sunscreen, and when using benzoyl peroxide in a routine, sunscreen is recommended by the FDA. And although I hate to say this, the truth is that sunscreen is not as essential if you're using benzoyl peroxide versus something like an exfoliant or an antibiotic. But still, we know that SPF is our BFF, and it is hands down the most important thing you can do to protect your skin from skin cancer, from sun damage, fine lines, and wrinkles, and yeah, even from those acne marks turning into acne scars. Now, if you are going to use benzoyl peroxide, when should you use it? Morning or evening? The cool thing about BP is that it's not photosensitive, so you can use it in the morning or in the evening. You could even use it twice a day, but again, for a lot of people, unless you're super oily, it could dry you out. So speak to your doctor or derm, but usually once a day is more than enough. Now, if you have really sensitive skin, you might want to start just once or twice a week and then kind of build up. And again, if you ever get those rashes or irritation, make sure that you back off because we don't want any allergic reactions in this house. The other thing just to remember is that benzoyl peroxide does stain. There are many advanced formulas that actually encapsulate benzoyl peroxide or have better delivery systems that that make it less irritating, but some can still stain your towels. So get yourself some white sheets, get yourself some white pajamas, some white pillowcases, or simply just use a wash so that you don't actually sleep with benzoyl peroxide on your face. Overall, it does have over 2,000 studies, and so many doctors, derms, and estheticians like myself recommend it because it can be so helpful for the people that need it. But whenever we're using an ingredient or trying to work on our acne, we need to understand how these ingredients work. We need to turn and learn these bottles so that we get familiar with what our skin can tolerate and how long these things actually take to see results. Again, if you're going to use benzoyl peroxide over the counter, you can usually see results in about a month or 2. If you're using benzoyl peroxide in combination with a prescription, or if you're getting something custom blended like Dermatica, that could be a little bit faster. For example, 2-3 weeks to a month, because there are literally prescription ingredients in here. But for some people who have more mature skin or their skin doesn't turn over as much, it could take a couple of months to actually see a major reduction. And this is why, number one, understanding and being patient is so important, but also taking photos, actually tracking your skin and its progress. Now, I usually take photos of my skin and I just track them on my phone. I just kind of snap a couple of shots in the mirror. I try to compliment myself, tell myself that I'm a hot ass looking and that I look good even with them pimples. But there are apps or even services like Dermatica offers that literally allows you to upload your photos to a platform and you can track your acne over time. And usually when we look in the mirror every single day, we don't see progress, right? Because I don't know about you, but I sit there and sometimes I like pick at my pimples or like I look at my chin hairs and I just fixate on the things that I don't like instead of looking at the progress that my skin has actually made. Again, a huge thanks to Dermatica for making information like this accessible, for literally listing the 2,000 studies about benzoyl peroxide on their website and partnering with us on a portion of this video to make sure that this information is accessible to you. In addition, if you're confused about skincare and prescriptions, they have one of the best visual libraries when you go through their skincare quiz. If you're worried about acne or you don't know if it's rosacea or pigmentation, they are one of the only companies that does these custom blended prescriptions that actually shows you images of what each skin condition looks like. Number one, it's a great way to get to know and identify your skin better. Number two, it's a great way to actually learn about skin conditions too. And of course, it's always checked by a doctor or derm after, so if you think you had one condition like acne, but it ends up being rosacea, that Dermatica expert, doctor, or derm is there to give that second check to make sure that you're not going home with a prescription that won't work for you. Again, Dermatica has some of the best price points and they do have different sales. If you are interested in over-the-counter stuff like Dr. Sandra Lee MD or the Inky List, I've listed those both in the description as well as in the little tagged products button below. But always remember, it's not the brand or the name that's important, it's the actual concentration of the ingredients, it's the formulation, and it's you understanding the active ingredients and how they work with your skin. And making sure that you're using brands that you enjoy, that represent your identity, that you're excited to put on your skin in the morning so that you can actually stick to your routine and see results. Now, when it comes to results, my skin has gone through so much over the years, and when I just look back at some of these photos then compared to where I am now, you know, I can't help but just take a little moment and feel a little bit better about myself, even on my sad days. Overall, always remember that your skin is a work in progress. Be patient with it, make sure that you're tracking it, and make sure that you're sharing your struggles and your successes with others. Always stay hydrated both orally and topically, reapply that SPF, and be beautiful both inside and out. I love you, and I cannot wait to see you in this next video. Love you guys. Bye.